About the issues in the Senate, I think we all know, and we always say it to our members, is the fact that Senate moves really, really slow, right? Even government moves slow, which is not a bad thing, actually, especially when we're doing things like defensive measures. But it always, for us, when we're on the offense for trying to get things done on behalf of the industry. Talk a little bit about the issues that are included in the Senate Voters Guide and sort of how we looked at the U.S. Senate.
Yeah, great question, Karen. So the U.S. Senate Voter Guide is actually comprised almost exclusively of how lawmakers felt in terms of whether or not they supported bills that SEMA supported or whether they didn't. Unfortunately, the Senate, we don't see them actually voting on legislation due to antiquated rules such as unlimited debate. And we've also seen Leader Schumer refusing to put strongly bipartisan bills on the floor, stuff that SEMA supports.
So talking about those strongly bipartisan bills, I think the big one is for our off-road community, sort of the U.S. Senate version of the Explore Act.
Yeah, the Explore Act passed unanimously through the House. This is something that's got strong support on both sides of the aisle, and we haven't seen the Senate move it yet. This is concerning. This legislation is common sense, a way to expand outdoor access for the off-road community. It means streamlining the permit process, reducing those fees, really cutting the red tape to make it easier to hold events outdoors. So Karen, there are 34 Senate seats that are up for grabs this election. 1 out of 3 senators are on the ballot. In a closely contested Senate, why is this election so important?
So based on the makeup of the Senate, as well as the schedules of which U.S. senators are elected, they hold 6-year terms versus 2-year terms, which is the House. And so the fact is that this year, so as each cycle goes through, one party tends to have an advantage over the other, or one party has to defend more seats than the other. And so 2024 is really the big year of opportunity for the Republican Party. Again, something you'll see a lot in the headlines, going after seats to regain the majority. Right now, the Democrats hold a 51-49 majority, but obviously the Republicans are trying to take advantage of the opportunity in sort of the overall cycle to gain the majority back. So if you read the headlines in any newspaper, there's already sort of, I think, 2 Senate seats that the Republicans are really counting on to regain that majority. You have West Virginia, which has been held by Joe Manchin, who formerly a Democrat, changed his party to independent, but still caucused with the Democrats. That's expected to go to the Republicans this year. And I think probably Montana is the other big one where the incumbent really has a vulnerability with regards to the challenger, the Republican challenger that's coming into that race. But there's several other states that are really ones to watch for election nights. What are some of the other states where Republicans are also seeking to gain an even bigger majority should they be successful in West Virginia and Montana?
Ohio is the next biggest race. It really comes down to what happens there. President Trump won it by 8 points in 2020. He's currently up anywhere between 8 to 10 points. This is all going to come down to turnout. But you've got Sherrod Brown, the current Democratic incumbent. He's been there for a long time. He's going against Bernie Moreno, someone who comes from the automotive industry, longtime car dealer, really gets the issues. This is going to be a competitive race. Obviously, Brown has incumbency advantages. But Moreno is an incredibly talented politician. This is a race that we're really going to be watching closely.
All right, so we talked about the states that really have been grabbing the headlines, where the Republican advantages of Ohio, Montana, West Virginia. But there's some unexpected challenges even on the Republican side, the Republican incumbents. Can you talk a little bit more about those?
Yeah, look, Republicans are on the offensive in so many states out there right now. We are looking at some big ones, though. Florida and Texas are both crucial Senate seats that Republicans need to hold. In Florida, you have Rick Scott. He has always won very close races, from his 2 terms as governor to his last Senate race. This one is going to come down to the wire, and we're actually seeing a gap between where President Trump is in terms of his numbers and where Rick Scott is. So that's one to follow. I think ultimately Rick Scott will be successful, but this is one we're watching closely.
Well, it's about getting out the vote, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Because again, the Senate race is just, who controls the Senate is going to be just as important as who controls the White House, really. What about Texas? We're seeing Texas in the headlines a lot with Senator Ted Cruz, and maybe an unexpectedly close race right now.
Yeah, a lot of people are scratching their heads. They don't know what's going on down in Texas. It's this perennial state where we're seeing the population change. You have a lot of people moving into the state, and the politics are changing a bit. Reliably red state continues to deliver for Republicans, but we're looking at margins really narrowing in Texas. Undoubtedly, President Trump will carry Texas. We're seeing that Ted Cruz is up, within the margin of error, 1 or 2 points. We've even seen polls where he's neck and neck or even down. So this is one that will be closely contested, and we'll watch quite a bit at SEMA.
So as we all get ready for the SEMA show, it's coming quick and fast, especially anybody that's building a car right now. It's fast and furious, literally. But the thing that people have to really remember is making sure they vote. Every state is different with regards to early voting or absentee. Since Election Day falls on this first day of the SEMA show, we want to make sure that everybody votes before you get to SEMA. Especially in the Senate races, why does that matter?
Yeah, elections are won by the people who show up. Supporting a candidate isn't enough. Ultimately, this is going to be really competitive. Turnout is everything in this election. We expect it to be high. And the reality is that folks who oppose our industry, they're going to be turning out their folks. So it's so important that our people make their voice heard as well. We need those folks coming out in order to, vote the issues that matter to their business, whether that's land use access, the right to repair, vehicle choice. All of these are fundamental and important to the future of our industry.